Hello fellow Scratchers, it's Fireflower time. Yes, I'm Griffpatch and welcome to another episode of our tile scrolling series. I know a lot of you have been very excited for this one as we introduce yet another awesome Mario power-up. Adding fireball projectiles adds yet another dimension to the game. I know you guys will be creating amazing things with this though. We'll start with adding the Fire Mario costume set, and then the collectible power-up, adding it to the level designer. Then we'll script the new projectile itself before finally battling with the collision detection code to make sure it all works perfectly. Wow, there's quite a lot to cover. Don't forget that I shared the completed episode 16 project. It's linked under the video if you need a hand catching up. But otherwise, hold on tight and let's get scratching. So we'll start by picking up those shiny new costumes and sounds. Head over to the updated tile scrolling asset project, and there's a link under the video, or find it on my Griffpatch tutor account as normal. Jumping into the Mario sprite. Costume 20 onwards contains the fun new Fire Mario costumes. Since there's quite a number of these, I'd advise you simply drag the entire Mario sprite into your backpack, like me. Next up, check out the enemy sprite. There's just a single new costume in here, costume 34. It's the Fire Flower power-up itself, so we might as well just backpack this single costume. And lastly, the sound sprite. We have 4 new sounds. It took me a while to find these, but they are going to make a lot of difference if you're making a Mario game. I'll play them back to you in a second, but for now, you can either backpack the 4 sounds individually or drop the entire sprite, like me, into your backpack. Might be a little slow as there's a large soundtrack in here to be copied. Great! So, open up your tile scrolling episode 18 projects. And as we begin, do make sure to save your projects as a copy. We don't want to lose our hard work if things went wrong. And name this episode 19. Woohoo! So, Fire Mario has a new whole set of costumes. So we'll begin there. Just drag out the backpacked Mario sprite. And one by one, drag the new costumes to the original Mario sprite. Starting at costume 20, I like to count them off as we go, so 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, scroll a bit, and 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Then we are good to delete the Mario 2 sprites since we are all up to date. While we're copying resources, let's also bring in the Fire Flower costume. I can't wait to collect this. We want to copy this into the enemy sprite. Carefully done. These things are explosive. And hey, why not also drop one to the tile sprite? That is required to let us place them into the level editor. Lastly, we should bring in the new sounds. We want to copy just the last 4 across into the existing sound sprite to bring that up to date too. And remove the Sound 2 sprite. Oh, I promised I'd let you hear these, so listen to these babies.
Let's go! Oh, Mamma Mia! Just what I needed. Oh no!
These will really help to complete the Mario feel, right? Many Scratchers noted their absence, and well, they were dead right. So thanks for the nudge. So, the game begins with Mini Mario. Recapping on episode 18, you'll remember that we set up Mario's costume names in such a way that each costume name begins with the costume's set name, and then is followed by an action, like walk or crouch, etc. We already had the costume sets for Mario and Mini Mario. And now you'll find we have the costumes for Fire Mario, using the same naming convention of Fire. This is excellent news, as to switch into Fire Mario mode, all we need to do is add a when F key pressed block. At some point we can just delete this, but it's just super useful for testing. And then set the Mario variable to the word fire, with a capital F. And hurrah! I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then smash the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, I'm teasing. We have so much more to cover, but man, I wish everything was as easy as changing costume sets. It's a good lesson that making good use of variables can save you a lot of scripting, like this Mario variable to change costumes. Okay, next up, we will be adding the new collectible Fireflower power-up. It will work just like the mushroom power-up, of course, so let's begin by adding it to the level editor. click into the tile sprite. The new fire flower costume is costume number 70, so let's remember that, and click into the editor sprite. We need to assign a level editor key to this new costume, so make the tile keymap list visible. Scroll down to the bottom and make sure we have a new row for, that's right, item 70, the fire flower. We always map enemy sprites to the number 9 key, so do the same here. Just remember to click out of the row once you've typed that in. But before the power-up will appear, we need to ensure the enemy sprite knows about it too. So in the enemy sprite, find the define spawn type custom block. Here is where we spawn the life power-up, that is, the mushroom. We can duplicate this. I did that using the new Scratch add-ons Control-Alt-Drag trick. Just loving that, guys. Yeah, and we'll check for that fire flower costume number 70. For starters, just switch the costume of the spawn sprite by entering the word fire flower. That's a capital F on fire and flower, without a space, as costumes are case sensitive. Pop that back into the main script and we are good to go. So hit the 0 key to enter the level editor and then cycle through the enemies with the 9 key. Great, here's the fire flower. Now where to put it? Just pop it in this mystery block under the Goomba. Right, press 0 again to save it, and I'm dead excited to see this work. Boing! Yes, we are really crushing this. Now we have 2 power-ups to enjoy. The only problem is they both act the same at the moment, just like mushrooms. We need the fire flower to turn us into Fire Mario. We can do something about that right away. Click into the enemy sprite and find the define tick life script. This is the main processing script for the mushroom collectibles. And here is where we check for its collection when touching Mario. Ah, right. Firstly, the sound we're playing here is the wrong one. Click into the sound sprite and find the new, just what I needed sound. Mine is sound number 27.
Just what I needed.
Drag this into the enemy sprite. Now back in the enemy sprite, we can switch it to play the sound when we collect a power-up. Nice. So, we have 2 different power-ups to consider now. We'll need an if-else block and put in an AND operator. So when the root costume of the collected sprite is Fire Flower, we want to switch it to Fire Mario. But we also have to check whether Mario variable equals Mario, because Mini Mario is not allowed to upgrade directly to Fire Mario. Then, if both of these are true, we set Mario to Fire with a capital F. Otherwise, we want to upgrade to Super Mario after all, so broadcast the collect one up. Lastly, the delete this clone sits under the if-else block, as we want to delete the power-up after it is collected. And with that, it's testing time. Smash the green flag and let's get ourselves a fire flower.
Just what I needed.
Okay, did you see that? We changed from Mini Mario to Super Mario. Like I said, we must upgrade to Super Mario first to get to become Fire Mario. Super Mario, and then Fire Mario. Yeah! I do wish, though, that there was a bit more of a transition, but this will do for now because we've got bigger fish to fry. Like, what's the point of being Fire Mario if you can't fire fireball projectiles? Okay, so this is the fun bit. First off, we need to detect a new controller key press. We handle these in the controls sprite. Wow, it's been a while since we've been in here. We have a variable for each type of control. Now on the SNES and other consoles, the fireball button is linked to the B button. Therefore, make a new variable naming it button B for this sprite only. Now to save us extra work, we'll process the key right here with an if-else block. Check for the X key being pressed. Yeah, the X key is often used to map to the SNES's B key. Don't question it. We want to be sure that we can distinguish the initial key press from the key just being held down. So when the key is pressed, use a change button B variable by 1. That will make the value increase as we hold the key down. And then to counter this, in the else, we set button B to the empty value. Yes, that's a set, not a change. That way, when we release the key, the value will be reset. If I run the project, you can see that working. The button B value stays blank until, that is, we hold down the X key, and then the value shoots up. Great, this will be useful. So, fireballs! Click into the Mario sprite. Mario can only fire 2 at a time. Find the define reset player script. We'll make a new variable named fireballs for all sprites. This will keep track of how many we have fired. In the reset player script, therefore, set fireballs to 0. Now, where are the other key presses processed? Find the when I receive move player script. Handle keys, left, right, jump and crouch. There we go. We need a new custom block. Handle keys, fire. Run without screen refresh. We'll make use of the block right away, but do it at the end after the check around player. Great. I'll just move the new define block into some free space before we get to work. Let's check for the B button. If with an equals block, and we compare using a button B of controls block, from the sensing category that is, comparing it to the value 1. Remember, this number counts up as it's held down, so it will only be 1 for the moment it is first pressed. We can only fire as fire Mario. If Mario equals fire, then. And we can only fire if we are not already using our 2 fireballs. If fireballs is less than 2, then. Yes, we could use lots of AND blocks here, but I try to avoid using long lines of blocks in Scratch. I prefer nice, neat, narrow scripts. So we're firing a new fireball. We change fireball by 1 to record the new fireball. Ooh, we need the sound. Click into the sound sprite and find the 10th sound. It's called fireball. And drag it into the Mario sprite. Then back in the Mario sprite, start sound fireball. Cool. Lastly, I'm going to broadcast to trigger the launching of the fireball. A new event then, named Mario Fireball. That'll do us. Okay, so not a lot to test here yet, but we can try it out. Pressing the X key should sound the fireball sound effect. And we can only do it twice, and then we run out. Excellent. So, it's time to actually clone a new fireball sprite. The question is how best to do it. I'm in 2 minds, and I don't know which idea is best. Option 1 is to reuse the enemy sprite. Now that may not sound like a good plan, as Mario's fireballs are not enemies, and in fact only want to hurt other enemies, not Mario. But if you think about the work we did with Koopa shells only a couple of episodes ago, then you'll remember how these are already primed for killing other enemies. By using the enemy sprite again, we could save ourselves a lot of other boilerplate coding. That is, all the sprite movement, collision checks, etc. But option 2 is the more conventional route, and that would be to create a new sprite for these projectiles. That would be my preferred route if Scratch was able to easily reuse our custom blocks between sprites. But sadly, this is not the case, so a lot of script repetition would be needed. I really don't like that, so I'm going to plumb for option 1. We'll reuse the enemy sprite. If you click into that now, you'll find the flame costume already sitting at costume 15. So that's good start. So in a clean space, we can make use of the when I receive Mario Fireball that we just broadcast. Of course, we must be careful not to run this event on all the enemy clones. So check if type equals empty value. All clones have the type variable set, so this must be the original sprite then. Good, we can spawn the fireball by setting type to fireball and then create a clone of myself. Do be careful to remember to set type back to the empty value afterwards, otherwise the main sprite will be mistaken for a clone too, and that would be really bad. Trust me. Okay, we are on. We've spawned a new clone, but it's far from set up. We handle this in the when I start as clone hat block. Can you find it? Firstly, we want to be sure we are a fireball. If type equals fireball, then. Right, we have lots of work to set this clone up, but it will follow the same structure that we have used in the past. Try to keep up. Set root costume to flame, capital F. That's the name of our fireball costume. Then we can set costume to the same, so we might as well use the root costume to simplify that. Next, set the width and height to 8. The fireball is quite small, so you may like to make this even smaller. It doesn't affect the size of the sprite on the screen, only how close it can get to the walls before it collides. Next up, we position the sprite to appear from Mario. So setting x to the x value of Mario, make sure to use the x variable, not the x position. We do the same for y, but hold on, we should offset the fireball up a small amount so it appears from our hand, so add 14. To allow the fireball to spin, set rotation style to all around. Now what direction do we want the fireball to be thrown in? If else. And we can check for the direction of Mario. If greater than 0, then we are facing right, so set speed x to 10. Else we're facing left, so set speed x to -10. In Mario, fireballs always fire downwards. We can replicate this by setting speed y to, say, -6. Okay, nearly there. Paint sprite will ensure the costume is set and the sprite positioned as soon as it's cloned. Set visible to 2. Now this is interesting. Remember what this does? A visible 0 value means that the sprite is hidden, 1 that it is currently showing, but 2, that means it's always visible because it's a deadly enemy sprite, one that kills other enemy sprites. Perfect, we want that. Then lastly, set frame to 0. Anything less is used for inactive enemies that have yet to come on screen. Right, the clone is all set up. We can test this. I can switch to the Fire Mario with the F key and click B to fire a projectile. Ha, there it is. And yay, it was super effective against the gumball, right? But well, it's not really moving very fast, is it? I'm going to try one on the piranha plant. Oh yeah, you are out of there. So they feel more like landmines than fireballs, and also it's a little off-putting that there's no sound when the enemy flips. Did you notice that? We can quickly address that. Find the define flip custom block. This is where an enemy is flipped by something. The sound we want should be in the sound sprite. It's called kick shell and is sound number 16. Drag that into the enemy sprite, and we'll follow it back to the scripts. Start sound, kick shell, right at the top of that define block. A quick test. And that is sounding much better. Okay, let's put this fireball into motion. What we need is the define move enemy custom block. And scroll right down to the end. I'm going to duplicate the check for moving a Koopa shell. But we'll check now for a type of fireball. Now remove the tick Koopa block. We need new scripts for the fireball. Make a new custom block named tick fireball. Run without screen refresh. Now we'll use the block right away, and don't forget to stop this script. Now in some free space, we'll code up the fireball movement script. We'll start with the fireball's spinning animation. For this, we want the sprite to rotate by 90 degrees, but not every frame, perhaps every third frame. So change frame by 1 and check for frame being greater than 2. And then turn the sprite by 90 degrees before setting frame back to 0, ready to loop around again. Good. Next up, we want to move the sprite in the X direction using our Move Sprite X block. This takes care of the collision detection, the movement, and the resolution for us. In fact, we can give that a test now and see it in action. Are you ready for this? And press X. Oh yeah, that is amazing! It's like a fireball cannon. That would make it far too easy though. Mario with a cannon. But look, we can still see the rotating fireballs have stopped dead as they impacted the level. That was because the moving sprite X block sets the speed X to 0 when it touches a wall. Now that's no problem, we in fact can use that. Check if speed X equals 0, and if it does, then we'll delete this clone. But we need to be careful. If we play the game, you can see that the fireball does indeed now get deleted when we hit the wall. But our fireballs variable has not gone down. So once we've fired both our fireballs, we still can't fire any more. Disaster! Well, not really. We just need to keep track of whether we delete a fireball clone. Take out the delete clone block, and we'll make a new custom block. Name it delete clone. And we'll use it in place of the original delete this clone block here. Now stuff in an if block before performing the actual delete this clone, and all we need to do is check if type equals fireball. Then if it is, we change fireballs by -1. Super. We can test this again. Watch to see the fireballs count go back down. Wonderful. These hot flaming projectiles are really coming together. Our next step will be to get the fireballs bouncing around, then to ensure they despawn when going off screen, fix the tricky issue of them passing through enemies as they get hit, and finally concluding with correcting Mario's power down from Fire Mario back to Super Mario. Still quite a lot to do then, but oh, I'm afraid you'll have to come back in a few days when I post the second part of this longer 2-part episode. But don't worry, you don't have to wait a whole week. So, if you have enjoyed this video, or if you need part 2 sooner, then smash that like button all the more for it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel to be alerted as soon as it arrives. If you are a huge fan or an educator, then do consider joining the channel membership, as your support helps to fund this channel and, well, just make it even better than ever. So thank you for watching, have a great week ahead, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Scratch on, guys.